Mr. Pierson, thank you for your time here on NDTV. Mr. Pierson, the Air India Dreamliner model made by Boeing has been flying for 14 years, has a great track record. We don't know yet what happened to that Air India plane, but you being a whistleblower on Boeing, is there anything right now that tells you that this was an issue with the plane itself?
Well, as you mentioned, there's a lot of information we don't know about. There's a lot of details that and unanswered questions. The only thing that really jumped out at me is I just saw a recent report of a passenger. Apparently, this individual is saying that they had flown on that exact plane, a couple hours before that flight that crashed, and he reported that he said something like nothing, none of the systems are working or nothing's working. And he was referring to like the air conditioning and some of the other systems on the plane. There's backup systems, so those systems should always really be working, except for an extreme kind of situation. And again, I have no proof that this is necessarily the case, but if that report, the passenger who flew on it beforehand, is accurate and said that there was a bunch of aircraft systems that wasn't working, that's a concern because that's like intermittent failures and stuff, and that's the same thing we seen in the Max, intermittent electrical failures. So, again, I'm not going to say that's the case, but the till we get the processing of the data recorder and the voice recorder, we're really not going to have the type of information we need to make a definitive kind of conclusion. So at this point, I would say, like you said, the plane has a very good record. I will tell you though that our foundation has been monitoring them closely, not just the 87, but other planes, and we've seen kind of what we consider kind of a bothersome pattern of issues that we don't believe are being addressed in a timely manner. But that again may not be related exactly to this.
Mr. Pierson, you along with a handful of other Boeing whistleblowers have testified before Congress at one of the hearings where you spoke. Your fellow whistleblower, Sam Salehpour, said that Boeing took shortcuts on its 787 aircraft. Can you remind us what he said about the Dreamliner?
That's right. And during that testimony, Mr. Salehpour, who is a engineer with Boeing, reported problems they were having with the airplane and these gaps, these structural type issues. And he provided some, pretty startling information about employees, forcing parts to fit together when they're not supposed to put that much force on it and to close these gaps. And so he expressed concern. He apparently did everything he could inside the company to raise these concerns, and he really wasn't getting any adequate response. So he felt it was necessary to become a whistleblower.
Indeed, Salehpour's testimony was startling, where one of the things that he said was, like you alluded to, Boeing staff jumped on plane parts to make them fit, but Boeing, of course, disputing those claims, saying that the Dreamliner was put through over 150,000 tests and the airframes are fine. Now, Mr. Pierson, though, let's talk about the 737 MAX, which saw two crashes. Boeing agreed last month to a payout of over $1 billion for what happened. Now, you worked at the MAX factory. What exactly alarmed you?
There was a lot of indications of chaotic and dangerous manufacturing. We were rushing to build the planes, to get them out the door. Employees were pressured to get their work done. There was a ton of pressure to do overtime. There was parts issues. We had aircraft systems issues, functional systems testing, electrical systems testing in particular, that I remember that we're having difficulties with. And I was concerned, just from my professional background in aviation, I was very concerned that we were taking unnecessary risk and we were risking the safety of the passengers and flight crew.
Mr. Pierson, was this an issue with the MAX factory or something across the board at Boeing?
Well, these issues are definitely corporate wide. I mean, the same programs, the same leadership, is put in place. And so airplane programs are supposed to be very similar in terms of how they're managed and the oversight.
Mr. Pierson, in your testimony before Congress, you said that aviation in the US has gone from a gold standard to a fool's standard. That's a reference not just about the aircraft maker, but on independent oversight too. Is that correct?
Yes. We frequently tout the aviation system in the United States as the gold standard, and that's the phrase that's used. It seems like every government official has to mention it at least once in their speeches. But this deterioration that we've seen, from design issues to manufacturing to operations to maintenance to regulatory oversight, we've seen a decline, and the things that we're doing today were never acceptable in the past. And this is really a global issue because, these planes are used across the world.
Okay, in January this year, United Airlines Dreamliner plane experienced sudden loss of altitude. In March last year, we saw a similar incident with a LATAM Dreamliner flight. How much pressure is Boeing going to be to prove that its aircraft was not the cause of the Air India crash?
Well, those other incidents, the United incident and the other airplane, the LATAM incident you referred to, those were sudden drops or sudden loss of altitude. We actually are concerned about that because we've seen a lot of incidents, seems like, on the 87. As far as there is no direct connection between those two incidents that we see and the accident that just happened. But I will say that we expect the authorities that are doing this investigation to be honest, to really be truthful about what happened, and don't downplay things and deny things. This is what we've seen even in the MAX. So, when you talk about the India accident, those families, those people that lost loved ones, they want to know the truth. They want to know what happened. And so we have to get to the bottom of it. And if we need to do it quickly, it's not something we should, waiting a year for a final report to come out is really insufficient. We need to move quickly, identify the problems, and fix them.
Ed Pierson, thank you very much for your time here on NDTV.
Thanks for having me.